And then I grabbed.
Oh my!
And then I went to Long John Silver's.
Folks, well,
Inside.
it's gonna be
still
an
inside.
insane show. Just gonna be a little bit of a warning. A little bit of a warning. Welcome to Talking Crit Live. I am 1/3 of your host, Eric Tenkar. With me, my once a week work spouse, Bad Mike. Below
Hello.
Bad Mike is Jim Kitchen. Cutting across is Ian McGarty. And holding everybody up, not literally, but on the bottom of the screen is the Wonky.
Hey, everybody.
And by the way, now that I've made introductions and spent my day either on the road or at the range, I am going to disappear for 2 minutes as I shove my face full of food.
He's going to destroy a Jersey Mike sandwich while Jim and I handle this.
Jim, you're in charge. Jim,
Oh my God!
Why am I not in charge?
So
Can't we do like a Zach Glazer expose where we watch him eat and then like talk about everything that he's eating?
I'm listening, but you're not going to see me shove my face through.
I hope you hear
Zach Club if you don't talk about Zach.
By the way, that Keelan and Ian were special guests in North Texas. Thanks a lot, you guys. It means a lot. You guys come every year. I mean, just you guys add a lot to the proceedings, and I just appreciate you guys being there. We had a great year this year, and that was because of all the attendees and all the special guests. So.
Thank you so much for having us. Seriously, this was my favorite North Texas on the books. Like out of, I think my 6 years now I've been there, it has been my #1 favorite experience.
Wow,
maybe even of my life. I had such a blast.
Stop! You're buttering our biscuits way too
hard.
I'll
get them all buttered up.
No, keep going, Rocky.
We got 2 hours to fill gratification, man, and you can't just like give us a broadside in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. Every North Texas
start it off strong.
Every North Texas feels that way.
Slow your roll. Like you can just tell him he's strong, and then you can tell him a little while later he's handsome, but just you're killing.
Keelan does that, and then meanwhile Ian over there is so evil he leaves porn in my bed at conventions and thinks that's a hilarious thing to do.
So anyway,
I just want to clarify that was porn in his bags as he was ready to board a flight.
I'm sorry,
and it was
I missed
a pumpkin in his.
What's the best? I'm sorry. There was a pumpkin in my bed.
The best way for you to discover porn is on a voyage of discovery with a TSA agent.
Oh, the pumpkin was in my bed. You're right.
So, how was North Texas for you guys?
I slept
with the Independent Publishers Union.
It was a good time. It was
okay. So we need a little more detail.
Texas is great. Texas is always awesome. I always say it too that like you just find exceptional players there as a DMs running the games.
Right.
Like they'll blow stuff up, but they'll do it in a calculated way. So most of them live, which is, unexpected sometimes. So I like seeing that. I took the dungeon I'm kickstarting and played it there a bunch of times. And I loved seeing the players go different ways than every other play tester had, which was very cool. When I was like, all right, I've run this so many times, I know what's up. And they were like, nope, we're going this way. I was like, awesome. So that's always a delight. But everything in Texas, it's a well-run convention. It nails all the major things. It's not a food desert. You can get something to eat nearby or right there if you want. It's got great games, great guests. Like vendors are solid too. Everything from new stuff to old stuff for a small convention that whacks it out of the park.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're through.
That was a good summary.
Oh, this is just so okay. So why don't we for people who don't know, or for people who are discovering this for the first time, why don't you explain the concept of the IPU and sort of how it came together and how it works going forward? Because I think that's something important.
That is a good question.
IPU was always it started with
let's explain what IPU stands for first.
Yeah, we're the Independent Publishers Union. It's more of a civil union marriage rather than a labor union. But it was a bunch of us who were small vendors who a single table, if you've got 4 products out right now, isn't a great look, like here's my empty table, look at my 4 products. But if I've got 4 and Skeeter's got 4, and my other buddy Levi's got 4, and my buddy Keelan's got 3, suddenly we have a really nice setup.
Yep.
And it also lets us share time at the booth so that I can still run my games and sell my books.
Yep.
And it's not overwhelming for one person, right? So if you go there alone, you're literally ball and change to a vending table, and then you can't run your game and sell your books. So it's like it's this delicate, and it's also your conventions. I don't know, personally for me, a lot less fun, but I have trouble sitting still in the same spot. So that's perhaps a personal issue there, but.
And so are you always looking for more people to come into the IPU, or are you sort of comfortable where you are right now? I mean, are you open to additional members, or are you pretty good and not
gotta run the gauntlet?
Yeah, I don't want to say you have to pass the initiation ritual.
There's the hazing.
I don't want to say it's like invite only, but it's not that it's invite only, but if it's all of us who are friends outside of this as well, right? So it matured into that.
Yep.
There is a loose set of standards that I can't discuss publicly. That we abide by.
I should probably read those.
I'm intrigued.
They're not in writing.
Okay, good to know. I'm like, did I miss the packet or something?
But really, it's Skull and Bone Society or something.
But really, like Tom and I band together up in the Northeast, and we still jump in with Jeff whenever Jeff has a table and he wants to do the same thing.
Yep.
But it's that's sort of what it is.
Well, it's a brilliant idea because a lot of people, when you go to a con, you feel like you don't have enough material to fill a table unless you're Bill Barsh. You've been writing stuff for 15 years. He's got a whole table full of stuff. If you only have 2 or 3 releases, your table feels so empty. You sit there and you got this, and this, and that's it. And like, well, I've got that, and that, so I don't need to talk to you. See you later. But you go to the IPU booth, and there's always something there I don't know about because I don't have everything by all you guys. And so there's always something like, oh, that's really cool. And, I didn't know that Skeeter wrote that or, whatever. And I think that's a really, really great idea.
And I'd say North Texas, we are especially laissez-faire with our attitude regarding it. So like we see Jim come up and I'm like, hey, Jim, come back here and sit with me and chill for a bit. And like, you know what I mean? Like we would rather hang out with our friends. So like rolling by in Texas, you're apt to bump into a bunch of really cool people just hanging out and talking games as well, which is excellent.
Yeah. That's where I met all you.
Yeah.
And so do you guys try to have new products at specific shows, or is it a case of it's baked when it's baked?
This one I was hoping to have at North Texas, but I was off by 2 days.
Unfortunately, your camera would need to be reversed for us to be able to read that. So that's
just backwards. This is cool. Yeah, I love the backwards.
That backwards book. It's part of the. I printed it backwards. It's meant to be meant to.
That's a good idea.
I like a challenge. I like a challenge in my RPG.
But that was the WHPA, the Demon Curd of Saint Deguzo. So that one.
I knew it wasn't Tankard the sequel, the musical.
Tankard the musical would be a great WHPA.
I like
Don't make my wheel.
Might be onto something there.
That's right. So what are the latest releases? What do you guys have out as your latest releases?
So that's my my most recent was the Demon Curd of Saint Deguzo.
Okay.
You can also find me in some other stuff. You can find me in Joey's WHPA box set. Bunch of let me think. What else am I doing? We've got the Shadow Dark Kickstarter right now. Temple of the Sheep God, which is
looks
pretty good
so
one.
good.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk. Well, we'll talk.
We'll be linking to it shortly. Fear not.
Jim will ask the question in just a few minutes.
That's right. So as soon as Eric throws the link up to the Kickstarter, I'm going to ask you the question. Are you ready for the question?
Oh.
Well, Keelan can go first. Why don't you?
Keelan, you go first.
Yeah, definitely. What question am I answering here? Or do you just want me to?
You have a chance to do an elevator pitch for your Kickstarter project.
Yep.
So what is your elevator pitch for this project?
I've had crazy dreams for a long time, and I've been working for almost a decade to encapsulate them within RPG material. I have super big ambitions with this, and it ended up turning from a 24-page little first-timers module up into basically a mega dungeon. It can be ran as a one-shot, a sandbox, a campaign. It has like 20 different enemy types, a bunch of different epic villains, and like 15 different maps. Everything's being written and illustrated by me. I think that's about 30, right? You want
Take a breath.
Okay.
Okay. So
That's
right
great.
off the bat, I have not had as much mescaline as you have tonight, and that's awesome. But my God, I'm exhausted just hearing that. Eric, we got to get the link up because I'm on
backed
fire.
I backed it, and it's
Not
only
just-
fun.
In the very notion of your
I'm
dreams,
I
I
could have been
am
wrapped.
transfixed.
And his
absolutely.
words do not do his art justice. Like
yes.
his art is stunning. Like
It's
will stop
And
her in
so-
its tracks.
and so the
Crazy
Stunning.
next question
crazy
is,
good.
That is
Crazy good.
not
the
it.
next question
I
is,
like it.
is
So
it
I've been working on
written
this pickle
or is
series.
it to be written?
It is mostly written. It is in various stages of writing. So I have about 16 chapters going into this, and all of the core material is at least second drafted. Some of it's been edited at this point in time. But because I wanted to expand it and really make this project all it could be, I still have about 2 chapters that are in their first.
Is this the
second
project,
draft.
or is Eric
No,
putting a joke on
Eric
me?
is on drugs.
I
Eric.
like
All
This
right,
is-
hold on.
Eric is
Help
still
me
hungry.
fund.
He's in the
But now
middle
I'm
of
Is this
excited.
dinner.
also why we're looking at
I'm-
wonky and
I'm-
seasonal?
I'm
Now
all
I'm
in.
suddenly looking at wonky
flavors?
pickles.
Yeah,
I'm
Keelan, I'm
into-
all in on this pickle venture.
I'm
Is
into
this a
wonky pickles.
fundraiser
I just
for a
figured
convention in the
wonky
Northeast?
pickles, no?
I feel like this is a fundraiser for conventions in the Northeast.
Please tell me more about wonky seasonal pickles with bold flavors.
I am like this is already I mean, right off the bat I was in because I thought if this is
Alright.
part of your dreamscape, I'm
was in-
really
I
entertained. by it.
believe it could have been it.
I
had
dream
to
of pickle vats.
Listen,
So
I
many pickle
was,
vats.
I didn't get home until shortly before the show, so my show prep is minimal. Wonky, can you send me a link? Because I
Wonky,
thought
why
I
don't
was
you put a link in our private chat? and I'll-
Absolutely.
So wonky. So it's funded. Your goal, you've doubled your goal, which is
Yeah,
good.
no,
Still
it's
2 weeks to
amazing.
go. So I'm excited about this because I like everything you've written. I think you have such a passion for really weird stuff, but not in a Lamentations of the Flame Princess way, in more of a classic horror way.
Definitely. And some of the material does border into that territory. It gets pretty dark and gnarly sometimes, but
Like
I'm trying to
Messenger.
rely on
But you
people
don't have
being good.
unnecessary body horror that has no purpose except to amuse James as he thinks about us.
Oh, thank God. There we go.
Precisely
I
so.
was hoping for pickles.
That's me.
Oh, that's
It's
Ian's. Oh, that's good
My,
job.
yeah,
Ian's.
keep going. There's another link in there. That's Keelan's.
All right.
Temple of the Sheep God. We'll come back to this.
I
We'll
think
come back to this.
Eric had some whiskey with that dinner
I
time.
wish I had
Good
whiskey
man.
with it.
I sent him both links. It's my fault. For
Oh, so
sending.
there you. All right, so
Go to the next
All
one.
right,
You got
I'm looking at this. Triple H. Oh my God, it's like a wrestling RPG product. This is
Yeah.
awesome. It's
But look
Heinous
at that.
Harvest. My God, when we get this up, we're going to be demonetized for sure. You got to bring
That
it.
is my hope.
I'm
Oh
so
my
worried
God,
about
this is spectacular.
demonetization. So one sec.
Your dreams frighten me, and I feel like you should be on a watch list. This
Me
is
too,
excellent.
100%.
And I'm
Yes.
hoping
Oh
that
my God, Eric,
That's
get
how
this
I'm trying to
up.
get
I'm
that.
getting there. I'm getting
Jesus,
there.
Jeff,
Jim,
look
the
at
first
the cover. I
Jim, the
could
first time,
my grandmother.
not
is-
since Kim George, if we had such
Hey,
a.
there we go.
No, sorry, Kim, I love you.
the
Just joking.
first time I met Keelan, he goes, "I've been thinking a lot about you, and it made me draw this." And he handed me the most terrifying piece of art I've ever
Oh
seen.
my
in my life.
God!
Okay,
I'm
scroll
sorry.
down because the Kickstarter exclusive cover rocks harder than Dawkins.
Yeah.
Look at
Look
this.
at
I will
that.
Look
take
at
a
that!
compliment.
It's ridiculous.
Oh.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
Oh my God! It's
And
like
so I can
insane.
and I can tell you that Keelan can pull this off because he pulled off like not a similar color, but a similar style for the charity zine we did for Rocky. Black Lung has like
Yeah.
this, like had the full cover, like work in that, like, and it was just like this, just beautiful.
oh.
It's up
Thank
to the
you.
show. I have
Oh,
it.
keep scrolling down the page. It just gets better and better and better.
You're my new favorite hype man. I need to take
Holy shit!
He's
This
available.
is
He's
hotter than
available.
a hot
You know.
thing next to the sun.
Whoa. All right,
Listen.
time out. The Kickstarter exclusive hardcover is $42.
It is indeed.
Stop!
Yes.
Stop! You're
You're
making me heart palpitate.
And
Oh
it's
my
going to be
God, I'm
limited
backing
print
it
run.
now,
I'm
you-
doing one print of these nice, offset printing hardcovers, and then it's never going to be printed again as a nice fancy hardcover.
Well,
So
I
this is
backed the
collectible
POV
to
cover. Now
nines.
I gotta jack my thing up to. Oh man, I didn't
crap.
scroll down enough. I didn't see the hardcover. Now I got to change my pledge.
Oh, keep
Dang
going.
it.
Okay, go down. Look at the character. That's
Oh.
the lap daddy. I
Yeah,
don't know what a
that's
lap
the
daddy
tap
is.
daddy.
I want to. This is my new goal in life.
Yeah, so they're these awful necromantic golems. What they do is outside the back of the estate in the adventure, it's kind of like the main, I don't know, zone that the adventure takes place in. They take a newborn babe and place it within a hollow gourd, and they bury it in the ground and, do a bunch of sacrificial stuff all over it, and it grows into these semi-sentient weird conglomerations between burlap, flesh, vegetable, and they're basically used as both laborers and watchdogs around the
I'm
estate.
sorry.
Oh
I
my
need to go-
God!
That's amazing.
I already
I need
want
to
to
go
kill
smoke
this
a
thing. I want to
cigarette 'cause
kill
you
it.
had me a gourd.
Oh, this is a great. I want to kill this creature. It's so evil.
Oh,
It's
look
great.
at that.
We know
Oh.
that Mike would have a love with that gourd very.
Oh my
that gourd, yeah, it
Lord.
reminds me of the pumpkin I woke up in bed with. The whole time.
Oh my
there's-
God. And keep going down.
There's-
Oh,
Mm.
Yeah,
oh.
it looks so
Oh.
good.
Keep going down. No. Down.
More.
Yeah,
I got
scroll.
confused when it
Look
picked
at that.
Stop them.
Oh.
Yeah,
This
great
is
contrast.
excellent. Oh my God. And like, tell me there's a Wicker Man thing in here of some kind.
So I don't have a true traditional Wicker Man, but it gets better. So basically, the final dungeon of this entire adventure, it takes place in the Buried Man is the entire concept behind the end dungeon, and so it's this subterranean effigy where all the cultists and villagers get
great.
taken back. They're crucified to the walls, and basically they're all producing this tar substance, giggle tar, and it's like a magical, unholy delirium that's force-fed upon the community. So these people are getting poked and prodded inside the chest chamber of the Buried Man. All of their bodily fluids runs down to collect in this giant vat and forming the pelvis of the effigy, and then it's constantly recycled back into the crucified villagers. And it's
Dude,
some
Give us your
first of all,
goo,
two
Jim.
things.
Give us your goo.
Number one, this has brought our chat to a screeching halt.
I done goofed.
Oh.
No, you
Number
did
two-
right. This is amazing.
Number two, Ambien. You should find some. This is excellent. Oh, I
Thank
love
you.
this.
This
This
is
is-
listen, it's Alaska. He only sleeps for part of the year.
6
right.
months he's awake. 6 months he's
6 months of
Behind-
vampires, then we got
So it's a
6 months
6-month long nap. It's a long sleep that he comes up with this stuff in. Got him some slack, man.
Holy,
My God.
I'm just
It's amazing stuff.
I'm
it's,
all
it's
over
so
this.
unique. I love the plan.
I'm so into this.
holy shit. This is
I
spectacular.
can't update my. I want to raise my pledge. It won't let me. What's wrong
Oh,
here?
well, thank
Maybe I
you
can
for
wait till
that.
after. Well, maybe after it funds, I can change my pledge.
Wow.
I want the hardcover now. Damn it!
Well, I do too. And I love holographic cards. You have me at nifty little card things like
Absolutely. Monster
Oh.
enemy illustration on one side with all the stats you
Okay.
need on the back. So it
Well,
can be
hold
a
on. I just
handout
noticed.
or
I just
So
saw
Make sure
something.
you use old man print on those.
You have
So-
you have a Lord of Dripwater at $300 level.
yes.
You've got 7 backers.
Yeah, I know.
That
It's
is
crazy.
great, dude. That's crazy.
That's-
I'm very thankful. I've been so
Wow.
blessed throughout this entire Kickstarter
Yeah, you're
campaign.
crushing it.
That
Like,
is
it's been-
incredible.
I'm beyond blessed.
this is fantastic.
Thank you.
This
And
is-
I do have one amendment I need to make on this Kickstarter page. It's what
Mhm.
we're looking at right now is I actually have reworked some of the later stretch goals. So I'm going to be including things instead of just adding more random monster types and some like NPCs or pre-gens, I actually have kind of themed expansions going on. So basically it's going to be within the same, hardcover book, but instead of just doubling the room size of Clue of the Sacred Cow like you see at $9,000 there, I want to bring it up to $150 and have it a traditional 4-tier old school dungeon crawl, all taking place within the tunnels beneath the colony. I have one that's focused on player characters, so everything from random roll tables and new character classes and these kind of things. I'm making this an all-inclusive experience.
Okay, now routinely on this show, if the project isn't fully written before the Kickstarter launches, we take you to task.
Okay.
But I'm not going to deploy the wet noodles just yet, and just emphasize that, buddy, you got to finish getting it written, because that's one of our 10 commandments of Kickstarters is don't back a project that isn't completed. But it looks fucking amazing. So you get a pass right now, but you got a pinky swear you're going to get this shit done before it ships.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. So all of the core material is already written. It's just stretch goal stuff and these kind of things that is unfinished at this point.
Oh my God, he's with Tim Kask.
Yeah. I love Tim. He's
You
great.
summoned the Tim.
Good.
So I want
Those photos are at North Texas.
Okay,
wanna
so
let
where
you
does
know
wonky come from? You have to tell us where wonky comes from.
So, how do I even begin with this? I was a little bit of a delinquent teenager, and my friends and I were out late on the docks one night, and someone had spiked all of us with a bunch of LSD. And I was roaming around the Alaskan docks at like 2 o'clock in the morning, going, "I'm losing my mind. I'm going wonky bananas." And then it kind of just stuck as a nickname for me because I wouldn't stop repeating, "I'm going wonky bananas." So people started calling me Wonky, and then Zach Glazer was like, "You're not wonky, you're the wonky," and it kind of just
The
stuck as
Wonky.
my creative title.
He's quick to give titles, our Zach. So
I like it.
okay, so now we've all oohed and awed over this. It's time to bring up young Master McGarty's project so we can talk about that as well. So let's go to the other link
I
that
agree.
doesn't involve pickles.
It involves sheep, which is on
Pickles-
target for this.
Pickles
week.
is my next Kickstarter.
And
after
we'll make
this
sure
one.
to include both links in the
I just
chat
keep
so you
coming
guys
back
can
to
follow
wonky pickles, though. I think I'm going to have to back the pickle kick.
Oh, Temple of the Sheep God.
So good.
Okay. So,
I'm going there now.
Ian,
How's it going?
what do you want to say?
Pitch us,
you want
pitch us this.
my
Pitch us.
elevator pitch.
Elevator
this-
pitch. Pitch it.
This is a 20-ish room dungeon with multiple feeling levels that are separate and an explained ecology. Some cool magic items and creatures you've never seen, all with a unique monster populating it, the Boggles, that have been terrorizing the neighborhood, which are some great stuff. Awesome, unique art by Mike Greer, has done all the original work with this, and
Look at that cover.
Yeah,
he knocked it out of the park.
Tell me that's going to be on a T-shirt, Ian.
So
That's
metal.
I think I'm gonna, because what Mike did, and we have a back too. The back isn't up there, but the back is just as like creepy and disturbing.
I like
you
creepy
know,
and disturbing.
Temple of an agricultural god, where the priest in a desperation made himself an avatar, and you can find the priest.
Look
in
at
there
that.
with
It's
this-
a couple of my exes right there in one picture.
Yeah,
Wow. He went there, folks. He went there.
Okay. So those are the Boggles. Those are the wretched Boggles.
those are the wretched Boggles.
Oh.
I just
Okay.
backed it. I just backed it. I saw the Boggles and I backed it. I couldn't stop.
It was all in on Boggles.
They're so creepy. They
love
have, and to put it mildly too, they have effed up some unsuspecting players quite well too. So Shadow Dark, so it still has that deadly teeth of an old school adventure, and this one is very much an old school adventure. It will feel that way. There are obstacles you can avoid. There's environment you can interact with and use later in creative fashion if you are. There's weird stuff to loot. You can try to dismantle stuff if you want. There's enough detail in there to do it. It's written in the style of all of my adventures, so it is a bullet point setup, so you can quickly look like you have prepared for hours, when really you're just glancing ahead at the room that they've entered. My layout, you can see sample layout page in there too, always has the map room right there with it, along with the description, so you can know what you're looking at as well.
So now let me ask you a question, Ian. So why Shadow Dark? I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand super hot right now. Oh my God, Shadow Dark is super hot right now. But what made you lean towards Shadow Dark versus something else?
I mean, I tend to write what I'm playing, and this happens to be a lot of what we're playing. It's also a concerted move away from I was writing some 5e because I felt forced to, maybe. I don't know.
You felt obligated. You felt
yes, thank you. That is it. So
there's
this
that kid on the
feels
playground saying, "Hey man, try 5e. The first hit's free."
Yeah, and this feels like the methadone of 5e, I guess, for me, as I'm trying to wean myself off.
I've not heard that Shadow Dark. Like description.
Maybe
before,
that
but
will
I'm
be
gonna text it to Kelsey later.
that will be my
Fantastic.
my T-shirt, Temple of the Sheep God, Shadow Dark, the methadone of the RPG.
That's right. That'll go over well. I look forward to the cease and desist email.
Yeah, right. I definitely want to get one before that letter comes in.
Yeah, no kidding. I got to get one of those shirts before this D&D drops.
It'll be in quotes, Jim Kitchen.
No, it will not. No. So, okay. So you've both got projects up right now, which I think is a remarkably healthy sign for the IPU for third party. Already, everything you've shown me tonight from both of you is better than a lot of the crap that I have seen littering tables at conventions since Shadow Dark sort of reached its culmination and exploded like Cthulhu all over a Pacific island. So both of you, I would be curious, do you lean more towards writing the project first and then coming up with the imagery, or do you have specific images in, oh my God, I have to write this to come up with something that matches what I'm thinking about? I'd like to hear from both of you. Wonky, you go first.
All right. So yes, I do have images that often pop into my mind first, usually dreams and things of that nature I have. And then I'll use those as keyframes and then fill in the gap because everything I write is based in my own home brewed world of Bellafallow. With that, it's very much based on my own home kind of area in Ketchikan, Alaska. So I have a lot of local native inspiration, Russian fur trade kind of style going on. I'm super inspired by mountain men, like Daniel Boone and the Age of Pike and Shot, and a lot of things encapsulating that time period. And so you're going to find a lot of inspiration from that as well, just to kind of fill in the gaps. But no, I don't start by writing everything out first. That's just not how my brain works. I'm a very visual person. I'm a full-time illustrator for a living, and so with that, I do like doodled notes, and then I have like a mountain of sticky notes basically that then gets conglomerated into some kind of a rough idea to work with. And it's just slow iterations, fleshing things out with, I'll take sticky note kind of crap drawings and turn them into like blueprints on graph paper, and then make nice prototype maps, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's a very similar thing for both the writing and artwork.
Okay. And Ian, how about you?
So
art
I usually
or text, and then you come up with the art.
Not art. For art is one of the last things I end up adding to a project.
Okay.
So for me, it's often like short phrases that lead to a map that leads to an adventure outline from there. But I'm pretty methodical, like in that order. So I have an idea.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have an idea. I turn it into. I visualize some sort of map or location, and then it kind of sprouts from there.
And so do you try to go for like a gut punch sentence where something where like it just leaps off of the page and just smacks people around and makes it sort of grabs their attention? Is that sort of what's your writing style? I think that's what I'm trying to ask.
Like, how do I put it?
Like, do you just write a little sentence and then build the paragraph out from that, or build the chapter out from that, or build the encounter out from that? I mean,
so I build it from a traditional outline. So I have like set up sections, and then I have further notes down to there, so that by the time I sit down to write, it's just crafting sentences, and then it comes pretty easily if I've done that planning.
Because I think all of us realize that what happens at Wonky's house in the morning is he wakes up and he immediately runs to the bathroom mirror and begins scrawling in blood or whatever's available.
His wife's lipstick.
His head is to try to capture that.
You're not too far off, though. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and like wake up with just some scrawled notes on a page like beside the bed, and I don't even remember doing it. Yeah, no, you're not too far off.
I was epically challenged from spraining my liver for my 30th birthday. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I took a bar of soap and I wrote intricate notes to myself on the bathroom mirror, which made no sense the next morning, but I still managed to execute getting all of the notes on I literally was using a bar of soap to write, and I still bear the shame to this day. So
that's fantastic.
Should have taken a picture of it.
I want to tell you real quick. I have a new. So I've already had. I have plenty of favorite Ian stories. I won't go into because some of them are painful. But I have a new favorite Wonky story.
Oh
dear!
A while back, he posted on his page. He was running. So he loves to run. You love to run, right? Right, Keelan?
Yeah.
He's running in the Alaskan wilderness at night, Jim, with a lamp on his head. I'm like, okay.
I've been there. Right. I've been to Ketchikan.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh my God. I spent some time in Alaska, and I went to Fairbanks. I went to Ketchikan, all up and down the coast. And really and truly, do you yearn to be chased by bears?
I asked Sam, his wife, I said, why do you let him do this? She goes, oh, I just can't stop him. He just loves to do it. I said, there's bears out there, and so I keep thinking he's running. It's like this unintentional horror film. I see the video. I go, next thing it's going to be this bear like.
I went
It's the Blair Witch module.
I went salmon fishing on a beach where there was a guy helping us with our lines when we were catching salmon, and behind us, the guy facing away from the ocean, facing the other way, had a Benelli in case Mama Bear came out and wanted a free snack.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
running in the dark, wearing a light. Do you just?
Keelan is. I think he's bad on the fact that he's so skinny. Well, no, I think he's back on the fact he's so skinny the bear won't see him as a snack and just go.
Which is true. Apex predators, they don't want you because there's not enough meat for the work.
That's
so I
what
suppose you can have that.
Keelan also doesn't have to be the fastest one. He just has to be faster than someone in the park.
There's nobody else in the woods.
I run alone at night.
Running by yourself.
He's running by himself.
So, yeah, to answer your question, I do kind of live for that thrill of adventure. I mean, I was inspired early on by old stories like Tarzan and Robert E. Howard's, Conan the Barbarian, all that kind of stuff. It was kind of baked into me at an early age, and I was raised in this kind of an environment. And there's nothing that gets me going like running around in the woods at night. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm usually shirtless in the rain with a Bowie knife on my side, like, let's go. And I have had encounters with bears. It's not an uncommon thing, but kind of like when you're fending off a dog, if you fake a charge, it usually will back on off, and if not, then you get really loud, and it is what it is.
If that doesn't work, well, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't done that yet.
So far, he channels his inner Mr. T.
So far, it's all work,
I just feel like what we're doing is we're actually going ahead and outlining the obituary column. I just don't know when we're going to be published.
That's why you need to back the Kickstarter, because it's going to be a collectible. Back the Kickstarter now, before Keelan gets eaten by a bear in the woods. It becomes the latest grizzly man.
Ooh, yes. And, do this. Follow Bad Mike's advice. Follow through with it. Help me out.
Yep.
If you do get killed by a bear, though, that gives Rocky and I a stretch goal for our next one to go hunt and kill.
That would help IPU a lot. The IPU could just that publicity would just, oh man,
it really would.
We would murder.
I'm onto something.
I feel like there's going to be a GoFundMe for a bear attack victim, and this makes me hurt. It just makes me, because you've got a lot of talent. I just don't want to see that talent residing in the stomach of a bear.
I appreciate the compliment, but this is where I get inspired is, there's no sense that I think it's very hard to translate things that you haven't experienced. I couldn't write a good romance novel. You know what I mean? I'm not some.
You're married. You can write a romance novel.
That's. Let me tell you.
Oh my God! I hope your wife walks up and back of you and just smacks you on the back of the head for that.
Deservedly.
I couldn't write a romance novel. I'm only married. What the hell?
Fair. That's fair. But, it's not the thoughts that I obsess about in these kind of things. And so I want to write real crazy stuff. And so I take the things that actually excite me and scare me, and I try and put that into my work. And you can only do that if you're doing crazy shit.
Let's just hold that thought for a second. I have a question for Ian. Ian, what part of our North America do you live in?
I'm in New Hampshire.
He's exactly the opposite part of the.
Do you go out in the summer and just festoon yourself with snakes just to see if they're going to bite you?
No, but I'll fling them out of my yard and mess with them. And
you don't want to dance with them, or perhaps do.
I had a showdown with a deer mowing the lawn the other day.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I don't know how to say this, Ian, but you got a long way to go to catch up to the bear chasing story.
Oh, we have bears all the time. For some reason, too, there is a Space Force base near us. Whenever I drive by, I always see 3 brown bears, and I swear to God, it's 3 dudes in the Air Force just in fucking bear suits, right? Tied up in bear suits, just posted up in bear suits in the woods.
I'll be back in 1 second.
Sure enough, she's about to smack you. Yeah. So really and truly, one of my favorite moments. So I don't know if anybody else has read them, but Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander novels, which are spectacular. But there is one point where one of the characters puts on a bear costume and pretends to be a bear, and they get away with it. And I can't spoil it, but it is without a doubt one of the funniest things I've ever read. Because, to get past the French, somebody has to pretend to be a trained bear, and shenanigans ensue. So what's next? So both of you have successful Kickstarters. Both of you have, and when I say that, I mean you've not only funded, but you've gone beyond what you wanted as a funding level to the point that you're into stretch goals and things are looking good. So what's next after what's next for both of you after these projects? And I don't want to talk about, you don't have to talk about when is it going to ship. We understand all that. But what is it that you're both eager to tackle next? Are you looking for sequels to your current projects? Are you looking for something in a different direction? Ian, why don't you go first?
Sure. So I have a series of 3 dungeons for Shadow Dark that I'll be releasing that are all 50-ish pages. From there, I have a complete hex crawl set up that's larger and has about 12 20-ish room plus dungeons in it, as well as some other stuff, a couple of little cities, all mapped out and populated. So that will be my step for this. Will be 3 of these, and then a hardcover with that setting that includes the 3 originals plus more, and probably a fantastic geographic scene somewhere in there when I feel like we get time.
And are you going to try to get that up as a project before the end of the year?
So a couple of the dungeons will ideally I get all 3 of the dungeons out, sooner than later, by the end of this year, and then you kick off the new year with a starting of a hardcover book that's 200 plus pages kind of thing.
Okay, Wonky, what's next? I mean, first of all, I guess the question is, do you go on sort of a spiritual journey by staying awake for 72 hours straight and then go to bed to try to have some good dreams, or do they just come naturally?
I do that sometimes. But so to answer your question in 2 parts, I guess, or both questions in 1 part. Like I was saying, I've had these dreams ever since I was a little kid, and there's a lot of reoccurring themes and factors, and it's almost like my brain's some kind of weirdo radio, and I'm tuning into this other cosmic dimension. I really click with Lovecraft's story, The Shadow Out of Time, because of this. But
Thank God,
anyway,
because I was worried you were going to say Daphne and Velma, and I was just
that's fantastic. So I've spent the last decade or so just building up this world setting in Bellafallo, figuring everything out, and I did it like the complete opposite way of how people tell you to start working on projects. Is I did all the groundwork, all of my skeleton and construction, figuring out the geopolitics, and I got everything together and ready. And so I've finally gotten everything completed within the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months here, and I have, I don't know, probably 15 to 18 different adventures I've been dreaming up
Awesome.
for the longest time. And so I broke it up into different series. Basically, I have thick packets filled with everything from just lined paper notes, post-it notes, rough maps, these kind of things. So right now, with His Heinous Harvest, that is part 1 of the Under the Laughing Cloud series. And with that, I'm going to expand on different ideas on chaos throughout 5 books, and each one of them is going to be this kind of mega adventure style where it's not really a campaign, it's not really a traditional mega dungeon, but it's these weird kind of conglomerations of ideas that have formed into, I don't know, really coherent little living universes for players to explore. And
Yeah,
so with
little sandbox.
yeah, it is. It really is. And so yeah, I got 5 of those coming up.
so with your first one funded and a
Yes.
success, and you look to build on that, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
I guess the question is, I guess the question is, how do you take your success that you currently have and throw that into your next project? What's the thing that and I'd like both of you to answer this. What's the thing you cannot wait to share in your next project? What's the hook that you're just like, as soon as I put this out here, this is going to get a visceral reaction. This is going to get the oh my gods, or the oh my gods, or oh my god. Like, what is it you'd like? So Juan can go first.
Yeah, I have a real fear. Everything I'm doing, I mean, going into illustration and game design isn't a great career option, but I have a genuine fear that both the fantasy and horror genres are starting to go stagnant. I hear a lot of people crying about how young people aren't taking up this mantle and doing cool things with old school games. I hate the modern culture as far as what we're presented with as far as fantasy and horror options, and so I'm trying to revitalize an entire genre to make people really scared again. I want that high octane dungeon crawling in my life, and there's very few people that are doing it, and that's why I signed up with the IPU, is I really respect what they're doing right now. And if I'm going to make a big difference, I want to, be a part of their kick-ass
Well,
little movie.
and just before Ian, before you answer, I just let me just say something more than anything else, and I think Mike and Eric would agree with me on this. What we see consistently is if it's a home run product, right? If the production values are high, if the art is really engaging, if it's something really spectacular, it draws its audience, right? We've all seen too many of the Kinko's booklet, $25, 32-page, and these things don't go as well as people would like, but they don't show the craft, they don't show the love, and really and truly, it's very evident when you look at your Kickstarter that there's a lot of craft and love that went into the project. So I really don't sweat the small stuff, because more than anything else, you're finding your audience. You have found an audience, they have found you, and they're on. Like, they're along for the ride, and they want you to peel back every layer of the onion until you get to the terrible, awful, sense-shattering core, and they're all in.
You warm my soul.
What's the next thing you cannot wait to share with people?
So the next thing I'm going to be doing is the Emerald Mines of Amalorn, which is an abandoned dwarf mine that has gone quiet. So why? There's definitely some creepy alien xenobugs in the basement that are causing some problems. So you will discover what that means.
I'm sensing a terrible manga, just like Raskadoji, or no, sorry. What do you guys want? Like, we've got an audience, they're in every week. They want to see things. They want to see fresh things. What do you want to tell them, right? What do you want to tell them? We ask a lot of questions, or I should say I've asked a lot of questions. Go ahead.
So I can answer this for both Keelan and I, is that we both write some weird stuff. If you want stuff that is unexpected, strange, scary, horror inspiring, wonder inspiring, then look at our stuff, because it is that. It is funky and an original. Temple of the Sheep God has you fighting cheese golems. I mean, you guys, it goes to there, right? And there's and I think that especially Keelan stepped up the next level of this, which is one of the reasons we like him, and what he does is the same way we do. We're thinking about dungeon ecology a little bit. Like, why would this junk be next to each other? Does it make sense? And I think we're seeing a lot more of that we didn't see in those original OS generations, and it feels good to play in that stuff, and the puzzle fits a lot better, and it just clicks and feels right. So if you want some weird stuff, check out any of our stuff.
So go ahead.
I was going to say something real quick. So I think what's cool is for a long time, nobody really viewed D&D as a horror game. It was a game, it was a fantasy game, and there's horror because of that, but not really the kind of horror that we see, for instance, in Call of Cthulhu. And then we had a little bit of that, once Lamentations came around. I don't count Ravenloft. To me, Ravenloft's really not that much of a horror game. It's more of a
Gothic romance novel.
There you go. Yeah, it's more of a Gothic type game. But I think it's cool that now we're getting a lot of people, especially with Shadow Dark, we're getting a lot of actual D&D type horror. And I don't mean, and I'm not ripping on Rag. Obviously, I love James, and there's a lot of Lamentation stuff I like, but there's a lot of shock jock in that too. A lot of his writers are like, hey, what happens if this guy had an arm growing out of his butt, and this, that kind of stuff.
No,
it's just But I like this horror stuff because I like. I'm not plugging my adventure. Don't go run by my adventure. But if you wanted to, here it is. But anyway,
wow, that was subtle.
I saw a map by Dyson, and there was a big giant pool there, and I immediately thought, what if that pool was filled with 1,000 carnivorous frogs? And how would that work? And so I thought, well, a dungeon with 1,000 carnivorous frogs would be really creepy and gross and smelly and disgusting. And so I made a really gross, creepy, disgusting, creepy dungeon. And I don't know if I don't think it causes fear, because I've run it twice, and yes, the players were scared of dying, but I didn't really tap into that fear that I'm seeing with Ian's project and Keelan's project. I need to work a little harder. I would like to get the horror part in there without being ridiculously over the top, And so I think you guys did a good job doing that. I really did.
And I think check out any Italian stuff with Hyperborea. Like, a lot of that is straight up horror. Like, it's And
Yeah.
playing it at the table, when some of those creatures come out, it's like, like you pucker.
We,
Truly.
I mean, I don't want to turn this into book chat, right? But one of the things that comes up frequently on the show is Mike and I particularly have deep roots in a lot of horror and
Mhm.
horror culture and so on. And I was a big I'm a big Arkham House collector. I'm a big fan of that entire swath of horror fiction that came out from the original, the original Lovecraft associations and
Good man.
and Clark Ashton Smith and so on and
Mhm.
so forth. But one of the things that I think, I always describe it that unfortunately, and this is a big part of Lamentations, it's very much oriented at what I would call post 1979 horror. So after Halloween and after the Friday the 13th movies and
Yeah.
that kind of, how much can we put into a movie before it gets an NC-17, how much, and that's fine. But like I'm a Hammer guy. I like a lot of spectral horror and slow build and slow reveals. And one of the movies that I dearly love that I always tell people, they're like, well, what kind of horror do you like? And Peter Straub's Ghost Story, which the movie's okay, but my God, the book is just this long, slow, excruciating slide down a razor blade. And and when it starts to pay off, oh shit, it's a payoff. And so I really like this kind of evocative. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Wicker Man. If you really, really would like to lose a few hours of your life, just come up to me at a convention and say, "Hey, Jim, would you like to walk me through The Wicker Man?"
And by the way, Jim is referring to the original Wicker Man, not the Nick Cage one.
no,
Just for
that's a different realm of horror. That's a terribly
We're
cast.
too dare disparage Nick Cage though on this show.
Yeah.
the bees, the
There's
bees.
so many
Ah!
bees. What is up? And I like that kind of new world clashing with the old world. I love that kind of, there are dark things that we have forgotten, and every once in a while they reach out to let us know they're still here. I'm a big fan of Basil Copper. I'm a big fan of Carl Edward Wagner. Like I'm all of this sort of stuff that just ricochets around in my head, and that's why what I think is so great about both of your projects is it taps into that vein. Yes, there we go.
Manly Wade,
Manly Wade.
Yes.
Good stuff.
beautiful. I love that stuff. Oh,
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
Appalachian horror stuff's. I love that shit.
And as somebody from Eastern Kentucky, right? Like I can tell you, there are hollows that you don't want to go down.
It is creepy.
because
Yes,
there's
creepy.
shenanigans.
Creepy.
There's just shenanigans. And what I would point out, what most people don't sort of make the association of, a lot of the smaller projects that come out of folks like the IPU and the two of yourselves, these are small press runs. These are small little peeks into a creative process. Now, there's an old joke in the RPG industry that the way you become a millionaire in the RPG industry is you start off having $10 million and you'll eventually work your way down to $1 million.
Yeah.
But what I always tell people is when you have something like this, when you have this creative thought that's just gnawing away and it's slowly getting larger and larger, and you have to put it to paper and you have to bring it to birth and you have to share it with people. There is nothing financial that will be as rewarding as when somebody buys it and comes up to you 6 months later at a show and says, "Oh my God, this was fantastic. I got it," and so on. And that's the real joy.
Sign it.
Yes, sign it
for
for me, right? Last week we talked on the show, we were doing a North Texas recap, and we were all talking about the massive Virginia 3-book set that came out that we had a chance to buy at North Texas. And hands down, I mean, I said it last week, it's one of those projects where I just can't even believe that the industry managed to birth this. It's so impressive. But I look at projects like your guys, and this is all like this is how it builds. These are the slow baby steps to getting it to where you want to be and getting it to what you want to do. And I look forward to 20 years of slowly peeling back and sharing the darkest recesses of the wonky mind, right? That's entertaining to me. That's interesting to me. I've been rereading John Varley. I've been going back and rereading all of my old John Varley stuff from the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. And I've been sort of down this retro of science fiction over the last couple of weeks, this sort of path. And I'm getting ready to launch into rereading a bunch of the old Arkhams and a bunch of the old 60s and 70s sort of horror fiction and so on. And Ian, I think you're absolutely in the same, you're in that Ramsey Campbell kind of unsettling and unnerving, and something's not right in the village. And I just love that stuff. I just absolutely love that stuff.
You got me thinking, Jim. I was talking about that kind of slow build horror, and I was saying about one of my favorite horror movies is a movie called Session 9, which is absolutely creep city. It was filmed in an actual insane asylum that was later torn down. It was abandoned, and it's just the whole movie. If you've never seen it, it's a 2001 movie. It's been out for a long time, but it's absolutely the creepiest movie I've ever seen in my life, because the slow build, and then the payoff is outrageous. It's just so good.
I have to check this out. I've never heard of it.
Okay.
It's Session 9. It's
okay. I got to make the recommendation that absolutely made me turn the television off and walk away, because I wasn't ready for where it made the left turn to Albuquerque, and then it got on the roller coaster to hell.
Oh, I love this.
And that was the horrific Good Night Mommy. And if you haven't seen Good Night Mommy, don't Google it. Don't spoil it. Whatever you do, you just need to watch it cold, because it's literally it's just, you're gonna you're gonna pause it, and you're gonna get up, and you're gonna walk around, and you're gonna turn on.
I'm excited.
I would same thing. Session 9. Don't read anything about it before you see it. Watch it. It starts out creepy and slow, and it builds, and you're just sitting there halfway through going, holy shit, something's going to happen, because it just builds and builds and builds, and the denouement is absolutely mind-blowing. And so it's just that's the kind of stuff I like. I don't like a lot of gore necessarily. I like a build. I like, something bad's going to happen. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. And that's what I like, and then bring that back to games. I enjoy that too, where let's say you're investigating a dungeon, and things are getting worse and worse the farther you go in the dungeon, and the players are getting more and more nervous going, especially I always like the part where you find dead bodies and they're torn up, and they find a journal on the body, and they start flipping the journal. It's like, oh, we went investigate this dungeon, and I had bad dreams the night before, but it's okay. It means there's treasure ahead. Which, by the way, I included that in my dungeon. They find a journal that says, I had terrible dreams about mummies and evil stuff, but that must mean there's treasure in the dungeon. So I'm all excited. And then as things go on, it gets, things starts building, and you find stuff scribbled on the wall in blood, and, scraps of paper that say, oh my God, and it's torn off, so that's the kind of stuff I like. And I don't think the Dungeon Adventures use that as much as they should, because I think that's a great device to use in D&D or, other kinds of RPGs besides horror RPGs.
Anybody can use buckets of fake blood, but it takes a really, really twisted writer to make and create a movie that so bothers and disturbs you that days later you almost burst into tears. And that's the kind of movie Good Night Mommy is. Like, it's just
interesting.
It's perfect.
I'm definitely going to be checking these out.
And if this is to the audience at large, one of my favorite creepy moments in a video game, one of my all-time favorite creepy moments in a video game, is if you played the original BioShock. Yep. You don't know what the little sisters are, and you don't have any clue what's coming until the first time one of them scuttles out and you see it, and she's got that little sing-songy voice, and they're and it was bad enough, right? I was like, oh my God, that's awful. But I have a friend who was playing BioShock. Poor Keith. He's playing BioShock. I think he had one daughter at the time. Maybe he had both, his second at the time. But he's a dad, and he's playing BioShock in the dark and has no clue what's coming. And the next thing you know, it's, the little sister crawls out of the hole and scuttles around. And he said he just had to turn the Xbox off, turn all the lights on, and walk around in his house for a while because he was just so incredibly creeped out. And
That's fair.
Yeah.
BioShock had a very similar impact on me. That's one of my favorite games of
Yes.
all time.
Yes. So, okay. So, like, the two of you, what's a favorite, oh my God moment from a movie? Like, what's something that fuels your creative talent?
So the movie Piranha scared the bejesus out of me when I was a kid. I saw it. I was probably like 7 when I saw it, but I was absolutely just terrified. I was like, "Holy shit!" So I quickly figured out a solution. I would let my brother enter bodies of water for a short period before I myself entered them, which seemed to solve the issue for a long time. But
So he was
that
the
one,
food
that
taster. I like
unseen
this.
sort of terror that just pops up and there's no chance of survival really got me.
I always enjoyed that James Cameron got his start on one of the Piranha movies. That always, that filled me with great joy. All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so it's interesting because it's not really horror by any means, but it was this, it's not even a specific moment, but in the movie City of Lost Children, I don't know if you're familiar
Yeah.
with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know what it was. There was this weird connection I had with this movie upon my first time seeing it, where I was like, whoa, other people dream about weird shit too, because there's no way, like, a design team just came up with all these different ideas. Like, this is some weird surrealist, kind of almost borderline nonsensical, but well based in reality, to where it's like, oh, I could do stuff like this too one day. It was just this connection of souls, I guess. I don't know how else to word it without sounding like a dork, but it really was like oh wow, there's a whole nother world out there for me to check out. It was very impactful.
And I think that's just it, right? That I think that there are so many great ideas that not only do you have people that riff off of them and create an homage or some attribution or love for whatever the original idea was, but we're too large, we're too big. There's too many people that can also simultaneously have an idea without ever being exposed to the original material. And so I don't view it as copycatting particularly, but I certainly see that there's a lot of creativity in the RPG space. There's a ton of creativity in the RPG space. And while yes, you can sort of, it fits into this, otherworldly monsters or supernatural horror, or I mean, there's all sorts of silos that you can put things in. But I think more than anything else, and this comes up time and time again, I'm the first person to say I'm rules agnostic. I just don't give a shit what the rules are. I want to create I want an RPG to be an experience where we collaboratively create an amazing story that we're going to talk about for years to come. And I don't give a shit what the rules are. I want to have an adventure where 10 years from now, we're going to be talking about the time that the guy charged the frost giants and got squished, and then we moved on.
Right there with you.
Right. And so I'm a big fan of creators coming up with something that just, really gnaws at you or lingers in your skull and sort of haunts you for any period of time after that. I'm a big fan of that. I'm really excited about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. When you can really touch someone in that way to where it doesn't just have an initial
we don't
impact.
touch people on this show. We have some limits and standards that we have to abide by.
People.
Since when? When do the standards start?
Because I've not had enough to drink yet, Mike. I've not had enough to drink yet. So go ahead. Sorry.
That's fair enough. I don't know. It's just an interesting thing when you can have a lasting impact on people and how they think about, these moments, either being excited or scared or, just the adrenaline pumping when you do kill the frost giant or, whatever it is. I think there's that surface level impact that you can easily get, but to have that lasting and to where you build connotations off of it from there, there's really something special in the magic of how RPGs work because it is a participatory thing. You are involved and engaged with other people and creating this weird dynamical blend of entertainment that it's something I don't think you can really reach elsewhere.
Okay, so Keelan, I've now just backed your project, and one thing I want to observe is, number one, it better be a pretty effing amazing t-shirt for $30. I'm just telling you right now. And then Ian, as soon as you put the t-shirt option up, I'm backing yours because I need the t-shirt. And I look forward to the goat on the front and whatever pithy thing you're going to have on the back.
What, a sheep or goat? Are we
But
talking?
for $30, I better get the best damn T-shirt I've ever gotten, Joaquin. I'm just telling
I
you right
can't
now.
promise you that, but it'll get looks. That's for sure.
I can
It
also
should be nice.
Just
I can
saying.
also drop a little.
It has to be this good. I love the Shadow Dart
Oh,
T-shirt.
that's
I
killer.
love
I can also
this.
drop a little
Love it.
IPU news on you too. So if you
Oh.
the IPU Benevolent Association is kicking into action with some of our buddies. So if you have backed any of Levi's projects, expect to hear something soon that these things are going to get tied up in a bow very shortly. So keep your ears peeled, and you will hear some progress about.
Actually, let me riff off that a little bit. You've had two IPU members, Rocky and Levi, who've had some difficulties the last year or so, and both life threatening. Which is, they're two great guys, and you hate to hear stuff like that.
Right.
But what do you? And I was actually going to ask that question. You beat me to it. What have you guys got going for these guys to help them out with
So Levi has some unfinished projects that are going to be finished and released pretty quickly with the help of a bunch of people that support him. And
great.
We called in the A squad. We've got a bunch of people, Tom Wilson, John McGuire, a bunch of the crew that we can rely on, and we're gonna help Levi get, because he just hasn't had the stamina to be able to do some logistics.
It's too bad, because Levi's stuff, man, he was hitting home run after home run after home run, with his kind of pulpy D&D stuff, and it just really sucks what he had to go through, what happened. And because, like I said, I liked every project he had. I was like, wow, this is better than the last one. God, this one's better than the last one. It just kept building and building and building. I just like his aesthetic, because there's not a lot of people that do what he does, right? It's kind of a pulp view of D&D, and the one with the crater and the mutants and the spaceships and the sword. I mean, it's nuts. But it's great. He writes some really good stuff.
Yeah, so there are people who are back to projects will be hearing announcements soon, and you'll get some news about that. I'll have
good deal.
John hit you guys up with more details as we move forward. Maybe we could give you a little exclusive there, but yes. So all of, like, very quickly, we're talking within 3 to 6 months, everybody should be square with all of his projects finished.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That is really cool.
Well, and more than anything else, I think reasonable people understand,
Right.
And more than anything else, the people who don't understand I've not heard anybody complain. And truthfully, anybody complain when somebody's had a medical event that was life-changing. If they complain about this, I look at the source of the complaint and I just pity them, because they aren't human. They have no soul, and I walk past them without even casting a glance, right? Because I just have no patience for that bullshit. I just none whatsoever. So we're through the first hour of the show, and I just want to make sure, have we gotten to everything that you guys wanted to talk about? You're welcome to hang around. We normally have folks on for the first hour to talk about their projects, but for gosh sakes, I talk a lot. I know this surprises you. I've tried to talk less and less because of my many critics. But tonight's one of those.
Many critics, yes.
But tonight's one of those nights where this is fabulous, right? I can't tell you how much I look forward to having people on where they've got crowdfunded projects that have already funded, they've passed their goals. Ian still needs to make a T-shirt. Hint.
Do you want me to add a T-shirt up there? I'll work on it.
Yeah, working on it. But this is exciting, right? Because what this shows is that this industry, and again, I believe that the industry is in a golden age. We have labor of love projects that are getting that love, that are being received well by other people, and are successful. And I don't just mean they're reaching the mandatory goal that you said, or and I know sometimes you have to sort of just pick it out of the air and say, okay, this is where our crowdfunding point is. But more than anything else, you're appreciated. Your work is appreciated. Your creative art is appreciated. And I think it's great. I love the fact that we've got both of you on, and both of you from opposite sides of our country. I can't even imagine. I just think that this demonstrates how healthy the industry is and how wonderful it is that we can have folks like you here on the show. You've got great projects. You've got projects that are going to fund, that are going to ship, and it just means the world to us, right? This is why I love being on the show, because I love seeing this kind of stuff.
And at this point, for me, my stuff comes pretty quickly. Like at this point, I'm waiting for a piece of art. Then it will go through one more meticulous edit where I'm like, what typo did I miss? And I'll find 3 more and be like, they're done. Put it down. Look at it again the next day. Find another. So it always goes. But that's where mop up for me. So we generally deliver pretty quick. So, and if you have WHPA for me, that is getting shipped this week.
Woohoo!
My
Nice.
children are resistant to child labor, so I gotta decrease.
Just remember, the children yearn for the mines. They yearn for the mines. That's the best part. So Wonky, what have you gotten everything out that you were just itching and burning to say? Besides, of course, that your marriage is not a romance novel. That which is.
It is.
Before you jump in, I'm gonna step out because I'm gonna go meet with Levi and Tom and some of those other guys.
Oh wow!
Oh,
Okay.
awesome! Give them my love.
Boy.
We love you guys. Appreciate you having us on.
Later, Ian. Yeah,
If
definitely.
you haven't done North
Okay,
Texas,
cool.
it is my favorite con. It is a home.
Well, thank
away.
you. We really appreciate it. We might have you back next year because of that.
And check out ShireCon this September too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
SharkCon. Yep. Awesome.
guys
Well,
love
thanks, Ian. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me.
Talk to you soon, buddy.
Mhm.
Okay, Wonky, is there anything
All
else
right.
you wanted to add or throw out or?
Honestly, I just wanted to give a big thank you to specifically you gentlemen for being there at the North Texas community and kind of being a big part of that backbone that led to me going down this weird path. I've always had these cool creative ideas. I've always been kind of an artsy dude, but before North Texas, I didn't really realize that third-party D&D was a thing at all. Like, I had enjoyed WotC's products for what they were worth, but there's so much potential within this industry just for people to express their creative desires, like you were just talking about, and to have it be celebrated and to have people stoked. And, there's hardly been, like at this last North Texas, I had a dude almost vomit into his hands while he was playing in my game, a complete stranger that was just, excited. And there really is a magic in this big family that we have here. And I'm very thankful to be a part of it. So thank you all for being, I guess, community elders of it,
God,
for
that tear
helping
that
get
it
me
brought to
wrapped
my eye
in.
that you made a grown man almost vomit in his hands.
Oh, I have had people vomit on themselves at the table. It's
Nice.
wild.
Sweet.
But
Thank
you.
I don't even know where to go with that statement, and that's just the best.
It's something.
I love that we had Runs from Bears on our show, which I think is a really great. I think that's a good name for him.
I love it. I think it works.
I want somebody to write. Now I'm down. I'm up to. I want somebody to write a module about pickles, boggles, and bears.
Pickles, boggles, and bears.
Mix those
Oh,
three,
my.
and I am
Oh,
so
my.
in. I will be in like Flynn. Yes.
I feel like that's an Ed Greenwood novel. Oh,
Ed. Sorry,
that was dark.
Sorry, Ed.
Anyway,
But
so
you're probably
Wonky,
right.
do you want to stick around, or are you headed out?
I should probably get back to illustration work. I have a busy day ahead of me. I just thank you guys for having me
All
on
right.
and letting me talk about my project.
Absolutely,
and
man.
stuff.
Look, we
just-
love having you in North Texas, man. I'll tell you what. One of the reasons that I demanded that Wonky be a special guest. Okay, not really. I'm allowed to choose a special guest I want, but I demanded to Gary. I said he has to be a special guest because this guy is so enthusiastic about the genre and he loves running games. He just loves being here. I mean, every time I see you at the con, you're like, "Oh my god, I love being here. This is so great. I love all these people." And so that kind of enthusiasm is what our hobby needs because Eric and Jim can tell you we have a lot of whiny nabobs of negativism, as somebody famous once said, and people that just I want to bring the world down. We're not having the kind of fun I want to have in D&D and gaming, and we need more enthusiastic younger types that aren't jaded yet and that want to put out really good product and so I just really appreciate you coming, Keelan, because you and your wife are awesome. I just love seeing you at the con. I really do.
We love being there. We love gaming and running games and everything in between. It's a really special moment in time to be alive, to where we can all participate in this thing together. And so from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
And absolutely, and Eric and I always say, and Jim too, is that if you want to meet these guys, come to cons and look.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you come to North Texas and meet Keelan, you will not regret it. You will be energized. You're like, man, this guy, why is he so excited about everything? Maybe I should get more excited too, because this guy's just like totally excited about everything. And I'm not that excited about D&D. Maybe I should be that excited. And that's the kind of vibe you give off, man. It's awesome.
It's just too good for words. It's just too good for words. This is the best. It's having folks on like yourself that this makes this show just a joy.
Yeah, we don't want to have all the other old guys like
here.
us that whine like, oh, my bursitis and I had to write something today and it sucked. And we don't want those guys. We want guys like you, Keelan. We don't want old guys like us that whine and bitch and moan and make things miserable for
I
them.
want a rule system that uses nothing but prime numbers. Oh God.
Oh please, no.
Yeah, no. I mean, you gotta take the good with the bad, right? If you find any more people like me, please let me know. I'm always looking for new friends.
Dude, there's no one else like you. Just stop right there. There's nobody else, right?
American dream.
I've been all over this country, and I'm just telling you, I've been all over this country and Canada.
Okay,
but you're the only one running around with a buck knife, bare chested, and I think you weigh about $110 tops when you're soaking wet.
Yep.
45.
You're like a toothpick for the bear.
I really am.
He's counting on that. He's counting on not getting eaten because the bear's going to look at him and go, yeah, nah. No,
and the bear's
right.
like, yeah, wait, no, that's
not worth
it.
it.
I don't know what
Action salmon stream.
Yeah, I got salmon waiting for me up the street. Yeah, I'm not dealing with you. You're a lot of tendons
work. They just
muscles.
It's great.
You're so dry and wiry. I know salmons are delicious, and
that kid's nothing.
I am dry and wiry. That's going on a name tag. Dry and wiry.
Dry and wiry.
I'm dry and wiry.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming out, Wonky. This has just been a hoot.
Great to see you.
Thank you for the support, the good talk. Much love to chat. Thank you, Kim George. I saw you in the comments there. Yeah, much love, everybody. Cheers.
No worries.
Awesome, man. We'll see you later, buddy. We'll definitely see you later. All right. Well, that was. Oh
my God, the future is both bright and terrifying.
Wonky's great. Look, I've known Ian a long time. Ian, I won't even go into the long history of him playing pranks on me, where he sneaks into my room by hook or by crook at hotels and leaves weird things in my bed. The pumpkin
pillowcase.
The pumpkin was cool because I leaned into it. See, that's what you do, Jim. You foil them by leaning into it. And so the pumpkin, I posted pictures of me cuddling the pumpkin in bed. And he's like, yeah, you get it, man. Bad Mike, you get it. I said, exactly. It wouldn't do me any good to rage about it and say there's a pumpkin in my bed. But so I cuddled up next to the pumpkin, and and the best story about the pumpkin was it was in my bed for 2 days before I found it, which means every day the maid came into my room, made the bed up, and placed the pumpkin under my pillow again. Like she must have thought, well, there's a reason the pumpkin's in the bed.
That's
I'm not going to
question
question
weird things she's seen.
It probably doesn't even register. The bar is so high for that. Pumpkin, whatever.
That's just horrifying.
Because I sent her the picture. Goes, we put that in your pumpkin that bed 2 days ago. I'm like, oh well, I just found it.
So it's like, 2 great projects to back. I hope you make a t-shirt because that'd be too good of a laugh. And let's see, we got all sorts of stuff to talk about.
Well, Eric, I want to know, first of all, Eric, you were at Central New York Con this weekend, and I heard I've actually talked to Roger. Roger and I talked after the con. Super nice guys, and it was a very successful con in my opinion. I hope it was for him too, because it is rare for a con to actually do more than break even the first year. You're expected to lose money the first few years. Right. And everything I've heard about this con, everybody's just said it's great. They had a great time. It looked like the venue was awesome. I mean, just everything. So go ahead and tell us your impressions, Eric.
So I'll start from just pure hotel experience. I've gone to many hotels because of conventions, and I've never had a hotel give free internet that is as good as Verizon Fios is here in New York.
Well, it wasn't West. I know it's not the Westin because their internet sucks. So it definitely wasn't the con I run. Their internet.
No. I logged in and like my website's right. Popping up quickly. I gotta check this. 105 megabytes. I'm like, I'm in heaven. We could be streaming live every day. It would have no
Oh.
impact.
This is like the most old man thing I've heard.
I think the internet.
I love my
Internet
porn.
kicks ass.
This is where I go to Starbucks and get a water.
Yeah. No,
Well, I tell you what got me is I saw the picture you posted, and it showed the bar, and they must have had 35 beers on tap.
30,
And I'm like,
32 taps.
wow.
Now,
and I was like, okay.
Now,
Okay.
Mike. Apparently, this is like a Utica thing. There's like happy hour. Like every hour is happy hour. So
okay, interesting.
So I was getting Sam Adams seasonal for $4.50 on draft, and then had my second round as a buyback. Hotel bars doing buybacks.
Yeah, that's
And
wow.
then we went out to a restaurant on the last day, Sunday, and every beer wound up being 2 beers. Every drink was 2 drinks. It was 2-for-1 specials, and you had to get 2.
My liver hurts thinking about this.
The selling point of this con is you can drink a lot.
So what I'm hearing is at no point in the show in the con were you sober.
Probably not. Yeah, no. I talked to the vendors, and the vendors did some really good money. I mean, Joe Block was very pleasantly surprised because, as he said, I barely manned my table, and he goes, and I did some great numbers for a day and a half. And
well, that's great.
Good
yeah.
deal.
I mean, that tells you that this area was dying for a convention of this sorts. I mean, really, when your vendors are making money, when the guy who brings in the pinball machine, they had a D&D themed pinball machine with all the loud noises, and because there's apparently a big, huge pinball arcade nearly museum nearby. They were going to leave at the end of. They were only going to stay for Saturday, and before Saturday ended, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to come back on Father's Day, Sunday. We're going to stay because we're doing that good." Next year, I think they're bringing 4 pinball machines. Roger will correct me if I'm wrong, but that tells you there were vendors who thought they were going to go home for Father's Day that didn't because they were doing a good
That's
time.
awesome. And come on, I'm a big believer that if you don't have a little show in your area, if you don't have a show in your area, start one. Like we'll have an episode. We should have an episode at some point on this show where we talk about how to get a small con off the ground.
Absolutely, because that's something
we can talk about.
Yeah, you're seeing it more and more.
We can talk about the do's and don'ts, and we can talk about. We should make a reference episode.
Oh, I like that.
We talk about what it's like, what the things you need to think about, the sort of numbers you need to start thinking about, and so on and so forth. And we should put that out on our calendar. We should do that in the next few weeks.
I tell you, and what I thought was so cool about talking to Roger is that it was years ago when we started North Texas, it was pretty much universally accepted that you're going to lose money your first few years. You always are. Right. You're going to do this. You're going to buy this. You're going to lose money, but just keep at it. And I've seen the last few years that a bunch of small cons are not losing money. They're doing so well their first year, and that's because after COVID, the cons blew up. I mean, they just did. They've blown up. People want to go game in person. They want to go to cons, and I would say I would change my advice on that. I don't think you have to lose money. I think if you do things correctly, you can make money your first few years, which is great because a lot of good cons that I knew went under after year 2 or 3 just because they couldn't keep up. Like, look, we're not making enough money, and we just couldn't do it. But I'm very heartened by hearing cons like Central New York Con did well enough to where I don't think it's any issue for them having a year 2. At least I hope Roger does that. And yeah, like I said, I just heard great things about it. It seems like that's a really good place to have a con.
Yeah.
Just everything has to come into play. You have to have good food. You have to have obviously drinks. I mean, there's somebody, you have to have good vendors. I mean, a lot of cons make the mistake of like, oh, we just want vendors. We don't care who, just give us vendors. And they end up getting a bunch of people selling chainmail bikinis and skis and plastic butterflies, whatever.
If I walk into your convention, if I walk into the vendor hall of your convention and there's a guy with AMSOIL, you've made mistakes. I'm going to say it right now. Just
The last year I went to AggieCon, and I knew AggieCon was done, and AggieCon was one of my favorite conventions growing up. It was where I would find great finds of RPGs. There was lots of gaming. And as the years rolled on, they got a little more cosplay, a little more. The last year I went, my wife and I walked in. The first vendor there is chainmail bikinis, and I said, "This con is done."
It's done for
it's
sure.
finished.
It's
as
done.
soon as you get an
It's
infestation of
done.
corsets and chainmail bikinis, it's hard to get. No penicillin will solve this problem. No penicillin will solve
At that point, you're not about games. You're about dress up. You're playing dress up, and you want everybody to buy, clothing. And then I walked, and sure enough, half the booths were clothing and cosplay, and and dice bags with special lettering on them, and dice tower. I mean, everything but gaming, everything but RPGs and gaming. And I was just like, yeah, I think we're done here. I think that let's close the book on one of the greatest cons of the '80s. AggieCon. They've become a non-gaming con.
Yep.
So it's very important. It sounded like Roger had a really good. I mean, he had the Emperor's Choice guys there, right? And
Oh my God, their setup was over the top.
I would love them to come to Texas, but I understand the distance is just too much for those guys. But I would love them to come. They would do so. Arduin and North Texas they're made to make love.
Yeah.
This is them making love right here. Arduin and North Texas,
Which is why they fit so well at Central New York. I mean,
Yeah.
Central New York Con is becoming, and I'm just saying this from year one. It's going to be, or even Ray said this. It's going to become like the North Texas of the East Coast.
I hope so because, like I said, the rise of the small con has been going on ever since COVID ended. So 21, 22, and I've been very, I've talked a lot about Long Con, which is in Longview, about 2.5 hours east of here. It's basically like North Texas East. I mean, it's all the same people plus a lot of ne'er-do-wells in East Texas, and we have a blast. It's about 300 people. 300, 400, and it's just great. And I really have come to where I really enjoy the small 200, 300, 400 person con.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what, you go there, you hang out. There's no hustle and bustle. It's just laid back. You play the games you want to play. You see all the vendors. I love that kind of con, and North Texas, I think, even though we're going to bump up to 600 next year, I still think we're in that ballpark.
But come on, like you haven't spoken about the number one draw for small cons. Which is small cons are beneath the gaze of Satine Phoenix.
Oh, wow.
Or anybody of that ilk. Not just Satine, but anybody.
People of that stature aren't going to put in the effort to come to a small convention when there are far larger mobs to grift.
Did you read a post by her? Is this a sneak preview? Is she back on the con circuit?
Because I was hoping
you need to warn me about this when it happens. Don't wait for the show to tell me that this is happening. I need to know beforehand.
So if you are unaware, the Satine, I can only refer to her as the Satine. The Satine has come off of her Vortrek through Asia.
She was in Bali at the health club there, Jim. Going through a spiritual awakening. She's being awakened.
The health club.
But she's now back in the United States, lamenting not having a car. But she's come back and she sent an update out to her backers that I didn't back the project, so I didn't get it, but I heard about it secondhand. And frankly, I don't care. I'm sorry for the backers who haven't gotten their product. I'm sorry for the backers who probably will never get their product. And all of this is just, I got nothing.
Are you trying to tell me that she's not doing a GoFundMe for a car? Please, God, tell me that's
I think that's the next step in the never-ending Satine Phoenix saga is that I just feel like the car comes up frequently as an issue. And and I feel like
she's laying the groundwork. Okay.
I feel the hubris was there to ask to pay, the hubris was there to fund her vacations. How can asking people to fund a car not be a logical next step?
Well, because if there's only a service, Jim, where you could call on the phone, they could drive you places. She would need a car. If there was something where
it would be Uber if there was something.
I mean, if there was something called Lyft or Uber that could drive you places, I can understand that you wouldn't need a car. But obviously, those don't exist, so you must have a car, Jim. Come on now. I mean,
I'm
how
gonna
can
see
you
if
be
I
so
can.
callous? How can you be
Oh,
so
here we go.
cold?
Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can read the latest update.
Oh, please.
Oh
Do it.
yes. Oh yes, I can. Do you want me to commit to reading this? Because
I don't have any popcorn. My
Well,
whiskey.
go
I
ahead.
can do it.
Go ahead.
I'll be okay. Do it. Do it.
Can,
well, it's
can you do it in the right voice? And that's the inquiring minds want to know.
okay. So here we go. I'm going to skip all the minutia where she gets
Please.
into
Yeah.
all this. What's
Get to the
done, what
dirty,
isn't
the
done.
nitty gritty.
But she did punctuate it with pretty pictures. So I guess all the AI generated art is good.
Oh, okay.
So here's the important part. It's been a minute since my last update. Now, when she says that, the last time she posted an update was April 16th of 2025. So the day after she had to file for taxes is when she gave us
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
A minute and a half.
let me get to the key points here. It's been a minute since my last update. I had plans. I was so excited. Everything felt like it was lining up. And then, ...
Oh boy.
I tried to surprise / clean my cousin's apartment in Singapore and got a chemical burn. So I was out for a week.
As will happen.
And then I
Because
landed in
Singapore.
Bali and hit the ground running and had an incredibly productive week.
Yeah.
And then this reads like a bad novel. Then I met a mysterious stranger and embarked on a week-long real-life adventure through beaches and jungles like something straight out of a movie. Okay. And then Bali's power went out. Mass home evacuations from the heat. Canggu filled with smoke from all of the scooters and cars.
Wait, all of Bali, the whole country.
I guess so. I walked 20 minutes to find a generator to charge my phone and ended up with a second chemical burn. This one got infected.
As one will. Yeah.
It goes on and on and on, but I'll end it with, so now I'm in Denver, not just passing through, I'm home. And if you were worried, don't worry anymore.
Wait.
My digital
Who was worried?
Oh, I mean, I was worried, Jim. I was so worried.
My digital nomad adventure has come to a close.
Oh.
I have a place to live. My heart is full. My work is grounding. And aside from needing to get a car, life feels like sunshine again. So, yeah. Filing this in the category of shit I don't care about, and really and truly,
that's the wrong emote.
That was actually throw up, not what you were thinking.
No, I thought you were just saying how she was.
No, Satine was on your mind. I know when I went like this, but that was actually vomit.
But now this is the draw of smaller conventions is that they're not even on Satine's radar. So you're good. You're good. So Eric, tell us more about the show you went to. So it was successful, which is great to hear.
I ran 2 sessions of classic Swords and Witchery Light / Future Blades and Arcana.
Okay.
And I used the Tom Wilson adventure under 10 Cars Tavern. And it was nice because I got to run the first level the first day and the next 2 levels the next day. Rach was the returning player. And I'm proud of my wife. She played a magic user and didn't get killed. She didn't enter combat until it was mop-up time. I'm proud. Took a dozen years. She's learning. I'm just saying.
So how is the venue? Like, tell me about the venue. Is it pretty good?
The venue is actually it's not huge. It could probably hold about 350, maybe 400 people max. Kind of like the last venue for North Texas, I guess. Similar in size. But it doesn't feel cramped. The bar itself that's attached to food. The food was top notch. I didn't hear any complaints about the food. The hotel had one of those little mini breakfast buffets included in your stay, which was nice. But and on Sunday, the restaurant was usually closed. They kept it open from 11 to 3, and we're actually taking orders at the tables, and people were getting their food fairly quickly. So Yeah,
But
no,
I
we
don't. I
made
don't
good
think.
money
Eric,
for the hotel.
I think that people overlook, and and I probably did this too before we started running. Having as many people as we have at the con when we moved to the West End. When we were at the Marriott, there was like all these restaurants where you just walk out of the hotel, you walk south 2 minutes, and there was all these restaurants. We went to the West End, it was more of a struggle because there's nothing around there, which is why we have food courts. But I think people underestimate the fact that if you don't have food resources nearby, you're kind of screwed. People, I
Right.
mean, people go to cons, they like to eat. I don't know if you've seen many gamers lately, but they're not, most of them are not vegans on health diets. They want to eat food. And so, I mean, I think a lot of people that put together cons don't realize this and think, oh, well, people just go out and get something to eat. No, they want food and they want food options there at the con. And that's very important. I would say most people starting a con, I would very frankly say, look, if you don't have food options, can you get food trucks? If you don't have food trucks, what are you going to do? If you don't have food trucks or food options, I'm going to tell you right now, you better have delivery. If you don't have delivery plus all both of those, you're really screwed. People are not going to be happy at your con.
You sound like you're talking about Paige.
I'm not talking about
No,
Paige
but I mean that's the
I'm
one.
just saying you have to have an option. You have to have
I mean, because that's a similar issue that Game Hole would have, which is not much food at the venue.
Like
Although they
zero
do have
restaurants nearby. Zero restaurants.
Right. They have that cafeteria-ish thing, which
if you want hot dogs that have been on the rotator.
right, and then you
Yes,
got
hot dogs and chips.
and I remember like the local pizzeria would come in and make like personal pies.
Right.
But the food trucks outside were awesome.
Excellent.
They
Alex
were
is on point with
gourmet
the food truck.
freaking food. You could actually.
And this year, Eric, there'll be twice. Alex promises us twice as many food trucks as last year.
Wow.
All of them had lines. All of them had 10 to 20 person lines.
But that's why he's getting more, Jim, because the lines. No. But the problem was he was limited by what the convention center allowed per food trucks. Well, as you might remember the saga last year with re-signing them to the contract and how they so badly bungled that. Part of what Alex got put in there was we are allowed to have more food trucks. And so they will have more food trucks this year, but he realized there's a problem there and he dealt with it, which is, look, nobody wants to eat yucko convention food and there's no restaurants close by. You've got to have options. And so to Alex's credit, he's got some great food trucks there. Absolutely. Guys, I look for every year. I'll go, I like the panini truck. I've got to go to the panini truck. I love their paninis. And so that's what you have to have that. And I just think that's overlooked. I'm glad that Roger and them have that option where they have good food, actually in the venue. You've got to have that now. That's not an option anymore. Back in the 70s, we didn't care. We went to comic book cons. We lived on chips and candy and like you said,
this is why we look like the way we do.
And 3-day-old hot dogs, and we didn't care. But nowadays, the most sophisticated game requires different kinds of food, and which is why Gary and I are going to double the food trucks next year at North Texas, which is why Alex is doubling the food trucks, which is why people need to think about this when they're doing a convention. How are my people here going to eat? So good for Roger. I'm glad that he has great options there. That's awesome.
And the hotel food wasn't horribly expensive. And if you were eating during half hour, there was stuff that was half price. I mean, it's a hotel bar that the locals come and actually hang out at.
And I think, but that's a good point, right? So one of the things also too, and hats off to Roger, right? I'm so happy to hear the show went well.
Yeah.
But you really have to hold the hotel's feet to the fire. You have to say to them, like, your kitchen can't get behind. Your kitchen can't mediocre the food, or we're going to food trucks. We're going to explore other options. And I'm glad to hear, I'm super glad to hear that the bar and everything kept up, right? I ran into something the other day, and I couldn't believe how smart this was on Sunday. We have a local restaurant that does barbecue and has an online portal so you can order and pick up. And the portal was down. The portal was dead as a doornail.
Right.
And I had wanted to place an online order and pick it up. And so couldn't do that. And I looked at the parking lot as I was driving by, and the parking lot's packed. And I went in, and the guy who owns the restaurant is the guy behind the counter when I walked in. And I said, hey, just a heads up, your online portal is down. I don't know if you know this or not. And he goes, I know, I turned it off. And I said, you did? And he says, yes, because our online portal says it takes 15 minutes to get your food ready if you place an order. He said, but the problem is that's the static answer. That's the
Right.
no matter what time of day you place the order, it says it's going to be 15 minutes. He says the problem is on holidays like Father's Day, the kitchen gets 45 minutes behind.
Oh boy, yeah.
And because I don't have a way of changing the online portal to say your meal won't be ready for 45 minutes, I simply turn it off, and people who are determined to place an order call. And the moment they call, I say to them, I can take your order over the phone, but it's going to be 45 minutes. And he says, and that resets the expectations.
That makes sense.
And he's gone to his web guy and said, I want to be able to change it. And the web guy, of course, like all crap web guys, is like, I don't know how to do that. So who cares? But you got to keep the hotels. I mean, a convention without food beyond hot dogs on rollers for 6 hours is
Or $10 super pretzel, which Knights of
for
Oz-
$10 they better be out there washing my car too.
They better be really super. But
Yeah, right. I expect spicy mustard and a car wash, and that's it.
Or they're gonna wash it with the spicy mustard, not quite.
Yes.
Smart.
Yeah. So
well, anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your whole thing, Eric, but I just keep thinking that now that people require, I don't know if we're spoiled or what, or if they just, are expecting more, but you've got to have these food options.
Yeah.
And I see some of these cons, and that's something they don't even consider. Maybe this needs to be part of our talk when we talk about this, Jim, is that that's something you need to consider. That I see a lot of people, the first thing I ask them, what are you going to do for food? They're like, huh? Like food. Oh, I don't know. They'll go out and eat something. Like, no. You must have food.
But you know what? That tells you a lot about priorities, right? That tells you a lot about what's important and so on and so forth. And you can rearrange your priorities however you want, but you got to keep remembering your attendees and making sure they don't starve and they're not eating each other like the Donner Party. All the old fashioned.
Interesting.
Yes. So. I don't know. Go ahead, Eric. So what else should we know? What other interesting, strange things happened at Page we want to talk about?
Page?
Page. Hello?
Hello?
Freudian slip?
Yes.
Back to
yes, it's too warm for Page.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was no risk of snow. Okay.
Yes, very true.
No.
And we move on.
And we move on.
Well, actually, it was Father's Day on Sunday, so that was part of scheduling. It was almost like a snowstorm because people were like, I'm going to get aggro from the family if I don't get home for dinner. So I mean, it ended earlier than I think was planned because it was Father's Day. So I think you also have to, if you're doing a convention, I guess, plan. If you've got a holiday weekend, figure out what your attendees are most likely going to be doing for that holiday part, I guess. So,
by the way, I'm getting messages from Jeff Tulane and Tom Tullis, who are at Origins this weekend, and I can't share any of them. Just letting you know that they are all unshareable, every one of them.
I'm pretty sure it isn't Tom Tullis urinal cakes. I'm just saying. I'm sure those aren't.
But they're having a ball. Origins has always been on my short list, and I'll make it there one of these dang days. And I hear about it's like the cons used to be. It's not ridiculously crowded, so I'll make it there eventually. I hated they moved so close to North Texas. I understand why they had to create some space between themselves and Gen Con, but it makes it so much harder for me to ever attend that now that they're that close. But if they stay towards the end of the month, maybe in the future, we'll see. But yeah, Origins is going on this week. Jim, I'm sure you've been to Origins. I have not. I wish I could.
I have. I'm supposed to be there this week, but there's some familial medical stuff this week that's sort of in play. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to get there or not. Frankly, I'm supposed to be sort of driving over there on Friday, but we'll see because of some stuff that's going on. I like Origins as a concept. I like that Origins has quit its sort of wandering minstrel sort of will go all over the country and just never build an audience. So I like that it's parked in Columbus and seems to be there for a while. Okay. Origins, the last time I was at Origins was 2010, and it was much more of a board game show. It was just board games. And unfortunately, Origins needs to be a lot more than that. It needs to, I mean, there was RPGs, but at the time, board games seemed to have taken over Origins, and they had leaned into it. Gamma is like a Hydra. Every time you cut off a head, two more take its place. And this explains why getting stuff done with Gamma, the ever-rotating membership of the board for Gamma causes no lack of consternation and headache.
Yeah.
I think the current crop is pretty good, but there have been crops of Gamma directors that, yeah, enough said. And so I like the idea of Origins. I like the idea that it's in one place. I haven't been in 15 years. The last time I was there, it was okay, but it was a show I went to work at, and I think I have. What's the guy that played Dante in Clerks? I met him in the bar, and I ended up with a selfie with him. He was such a nice guy.
Oh, nice.
But other than that, like those are my key memories of well, and I'm sorry. So let me say, I was in the vendor hall, and the vendor hall was frankly deserted. I had some people that showed up on Saturday, but the Friday at the vendor hall was just a ghost town, and Sunday at the vendor hall was pretty much a ghost town. And
that's too bad.
I'm sure that's changed. It's 15 years later, and
Right.
they've been in the same place. And I know that I have friends that drive 2 or 3 hours to go to Columbus and go to the show, and that's awesome, right? I haven't had any reason to go back to Origins. And frankly, you hit the nail on the head. Unfortunately for Origins, it's perilously close to North Texas, and it's always been the show before Gen Con. And truthfully, it needs to space itself further away from Gen Con if it wants to have that gravitas, and I've never understood why it hasn't. So.
Well, one of my, so for those who don't know, for I think until the 90s, Origins used to change the location every year.
Oh my God, yes.
But
let's have it here, and let's go across the country, and let's do.
Well, one of my greatest missed opportunities was Origins was in Dallas, Texas in 1984. And that was the year that I went to England for the summer, and I left the week before Origins start. I think it was in July. I left like last week in June for England. So I missed a chance to go to Origins in Dallas, and that's always be a missed opportunity, but I had a blast in England. But yeah, I always thought that was crazy that they would go, kind of like the World Con does. And I believe they were in Fort Worth 1 year, 2 years later.
So that's what I was just going to say is my first big show was Origins in 93 in Dallas, Fort Worth.
That was that was the Fort Worth one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went to that, and I have a passel of great stories from that weekend. My favorite is the fact that the same hotel that was hosting all of the big hotel that was attached to the Fort Worth Convention Center,
right?
Whatever it is, it's massive. Not only was it hosting Origins, it was also hosting the Miss Texas pageant. Oh my God, I had one of the most epic nights of my entire life at that show, because we were going down to eat on Saturday night. We were going down in the elevator to go eat, and we get on the elevator. There's 3 of us. And as we're starting to ride down, because we had like rooms at the very, 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 very top. And as we're riding down in the elevator, 3 girls get on for the Miss Texas pageant, and they're all in the gowns and the big hair, and there is support bridging and tape lifting things. And they get on, and there's like this moment of silence. And like they press buttons because they're going to the mezzanine level. And I was like, so what are you all doing tonight? And they were like, there's like this sort of needle across the record. And I said, well, we're going out to dinner and then we're going to be in the bar downstairs. What are you guys doing? And they're like, oh, well, tonight's our last event. And like, what time are you going to be at the bar? And I was like, we'll meet you there at 10 o'clock. And they're like, really? And I said, yep. And they're like, could we bring friends? You can bring all of your friends you want. And
Friends?
We go out to eat and we get back to the hotel bar. And we get back to the hotel and I immediately go over to the bar. And I
like, so Jim, this is Jim at dinner. Okay, let's go to the bar.
But I'm like, I go back to the bartender. I'm like, okay, here's the deal. We got a bunch of the Miss Texas girls who said they're going to show up at 10 o'clock. I need those 2 big tables. And at 10:30, if I don't have them, I'll cut them loose. If they're not here, I'll cut the tables loose, but I'm giving you $50 right now. And he goes, deal. So lo and behold, I don't know, it's like 10:05, and I'm just like, oh no, this is all in the end in tears.
Sweat's like pouring down your face.
And like 7 or 8 of them show up, and they have literally gone back to their rooms, ripped the gowns off, and thrown on like t-shirts and shorts, but they've left the big hair and they've left all the suspension bridging, and we had the greatest night ever. It was just picture after picture. I got to hear stories about pageant.
I was right across town, and you didn't call me. Oh wait, I didn't know.
Oh my God, we had the best time. We had absolutely the best time. I can't tell you. It was one of the most epic origin stories ever. No. And Origins was smart enough at the time. They realized that the most antisocial people at the show were the Task Force Cames, Starfleet Battles people. And they stuck them in their own hotel where they literally put, if you were into Starfleet Battles, they recommended you stay in the hotel because that's where all the events were. And Bill Barsh was there. I think Bill went to that one, and he was in that hotel playing Starfleet Battles.
You and Bill were both there. You didn't call me.
I know. Right across town. It was right across from the water park. It was right across from the water park. They shot the ending of Logan's Run.
Logan's Run, yeah.
And I walked all the way down to the bottom, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" It was just.
By the way, Jim, you can't go down there anymore because people have drowned. They went swimming in it. It's not a swimming pool, folks.
No, it is not. But people are.
It's an art exhibit, not a piece of. But that I you know what? Another missed opportunity right there in 1993.
I'll tell you what. This is. I've told this story. I've told the Miss Texas story. And what I always say, and this is the lesson, right? It doesn't matter. You still have to shoot your shot. You still have to take that shot because
you know what? Go for it, people.
It might not work out, or it might lead to one of the most epic nights at a gaming convention in your entire life. And if you don't think having 7 or 8 Miss Texas contestants sitting in the bar, knocking back beers and having a good old time with you and sharing everything about what pageant life is. Oh my God, I've never laughed so hard in my entire life.
And then Jim's sidling out to one like, so baby, I got a copy of B1 in my room. And we're gonna do it. It's like you have to fill in the treasures and the monsters, but it's great for one-on-one adventuring. Would you like to come up and see? You know, you maybe get some treasure out of it. I mean, maybe we'll find out what's on the lower level. He's like, really? Oh, this sounds interesting.
My other story from that night was so it's 93 and Cops is still I think Cops had been on for one season and was getting ready to have the second season, or maybe the second season had started. But one of the very first episode runs of Cops, because they used to go, we'll be here. Right. But they did 2 or 3 episodes in Dallas Fort Worth. And one of the things that was really notable in that first season of Cops was in Fort Worth, the Cops crew filmed some perp swinging and hitting a bicycle cop and knocking her on the ground, right? Like he hauled off and decked her. And then, of course, he's immediately buried under all these other police officers. But we're walking to the restaurant. We're walking to the barbecue place. And we stop at a corner, and there's 2 bike cops, one male and one female. And Max Lipman, the owner of the Armory, who had no fear whatsoever, looks at her and goes, "Hey, you're that cop from Cops that the guy knocked out." And she whips around and is just like glaring daggers at him.
Oh boy,
and,
that wasn't a great.
And the other cop is like behind her, like doing this.
Stop! No, don't do no more.
Don't go there. And
She
and
doesn't
Max,
like that. She
and
doesn't.
Max is just like, yeah, it is you. Just
Can
like,
I have
oh
a picture
God.
with you?
Oh,
Hey,
it's
how
gonna
if we
be-
knock you on the
oh,
ground like in the video? Oh yeah, that's
Yes,
you
yes.
gotta
And
you
then,
gotta make your you gotta hit your mark, but you also gotta know when not to take your shot, Jim.
yes,
And
yes.
that was a naughty. That was not a hottie. That was a naughty. Don't take your shot there. That was a.
Oh, and then the
Oh.
other great story. I mean, again, that weekend was
Oh.
a
Well,
festival
now I'm
of
really
fun.
regretting my stupidness 30 years ago and not showing up for that con.
So
but
imagine this, right? So imagine this. One of the big buyers that shows up at this show is Nando from Strata Libre, right? This is an Italian guy who just is a bottomless pit for buying American games and selling them across. I think he was an Italian distributor for Italian retail stores. And so he was like a Chessex or an Armory, but he would just buy volumes of stuff. And my God, the man had money just oozing out of his pores, right? So he was a good-looking Italian guy. His pants were cut way too tight. I could tell you what his pulse was, but he brought his Italian girlfriend. And I'm not kidding. This woman
Arrivederci.
she could fry bacon at 100 yards. It was like having to hang around with Gina Lola Brigida and Sophia Loren. But she speaks not a word of English.
No English. No English.
And I'm the guy they stuck with. I'm the guy they stuck with the job because she needed to go to a pharmacy for products. And I'm the one that got to take her there. And I'm the one who had to try to overcome the language barrier for what she was looking for. And oh my God, this was a train wreck of she's trying to use her hands to diagram things. And I am just like, this is just, I need a beer. And it was, but we got there. And then she went on and on and on. She's like, oh, he was so helpful, blah, 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 blah. And Nando's like, good job. And I'm like, hooray. This was the worst experience of my life. And I need 2 beers. So
How do you say magnum size in Italian? I don't know.
It was bad news. It was such bad.
Well, anyway, so that was Origins kind of thing, and I don't think they ever made very much money, Jim, from what I understand, until they settled in Columbus.
That's
and
right.
Said, we're not going to do this shit anymore, and we're going to just sit there and we're going to. Columbus is our home, and I think that was a good decision because I've heard over the years that, for instance, the '84 show in Dallas was made like no money, like lost money. It was awful because it's just hard. It's so hard to have a convention that just changes locale every year. It's just crazy. And so so I hope they do well. I looked at their attendance last few years. They've been going up. Last year they had over 17,000. They usually go in that. Although they had 17,000 back in 2017 too, so they kind of go between 10, 20,000 the last 10 years or so, which is odd to me. They don't have a consistent number there. It just kind of up, down, all around.
Yeah, I think the thing that really hurt Origins the most, and everybody in the industry talked about this, right? In the early 90s, everybody talked about how the worst thing that ever happened for Origins was the combined Origins Gen Con.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. I figured you would know about that. I'm looking at my Wikipedia page. And they did that twice.
So
that's
Gamma,
crazy.
again, like the Gamma board varies from unbelievably competent to I can't believe they can actually fog a mirror. And so what seemed like a good idea on paper, unfortunately, twice you showed people how awesome Gen Con was, and why would you ever go to Origins again after going to Gen Con? And
absolutely, yeah.
Twice that happened, and I still to this day, I remember Gamma board members talking about how this just laid low attendance. Like they would start to be on an upward trajectory, and then they would do the combined show, and it would just crater again. And couple that with, hey, by the way, we're going to throw a dart at the map, and that's where Origins is going to be this year. And finally, they abandoned that, and I think it's the smartest thing they could do.
Yeah, that sounds. I just saw that, and I'm thinking I don't get that at all. And it's also one year they shared it with Dragon Con. Once again, why are you?
Which don't get me started on Dragon Con. Dragon Con, I only went once, and that was enough because I don't think I could survive as an adult. I don't think I could survive Dragon Con at my age now the way that Dragon Con was when I was there. I went to a White Wolf. I went to White. So I went to a White Wolf party in 1994. At the height of when White Wolf was just overrunning conventions with unbelievably attractive people in black and a lot of unattractive people in black.
Oh, well, you got to balance.
And I went to the White Wolf party in 1994 from Dragon Con, and I saw things that to this day, if I could have memories edited in my mind, that would be one of the things I would start. Although my favorite was because they had the party at the White Wolf offices, so you could go in. You showed up, and like there was sort of a rave going on in the warehouse portion, right? And there were shirtless guys from Chaosium beating 55-gallon drums with tire irons. But you wandered through the offices. But my favorite was that the office of Mark Ryan Hagen. It looked like a fog bank. They weren't just smoking some marijuana. They weren't smoking a lot of marijuana. They were smoking all of the marijuana in the state of Georgia.
Yeah. Every bit of it was
you would look through the window. You could see there was a glass window into his office, and he had a big office. And I have no idea how many people were in it, but the smoke was so thick. Visibility was zero.
It was like a Cheech and Chong van.
I mean,
driving in the
Cheech and Chong would pray to be invited to this. And I just remember somebody opened the door to go in, and they had to be let in by somebody who knew the outline of it, like knew where everything was in his office, so they wouldn't trip. But when they opened the door, it was literally like a gelatinous cube of smoke started to come out.
My eyes are watering just telling the story.
Oh my God, right? Like I just can't even imagine. So it was I was like, once is enough. I'm good. I'm really good. And I couldn't remember. I mean, Dragon Con was insanely large in 94. It's just off the chart now. It really, really is.
It falls in the category of what I like to call entertainment con, which means it's the same thing with San Diego Comic Con. It's what Gen Con's turning into. It's not a fill in the blank gaming con, board gaming, whatever. It's just there for entertainment. Comic Con is not a Comic Con anymore. It's an opportunity for people for Disney and movie studios to flog their product. The comics are moved way back in the back now, like they're ashamed of them. Oh yeah, comics, yeah. And the same with Dragon Con. God knows what that's even about anymore. It's just about whatever. And Gen Con
is a party. Dragon Con is one giant.
Gen Con is, I think, it's sliding that way. It's not necessarily about gaming anymore or role playing games, and it's just about, hey, let's all get together and have some cosplay and some fun, and let's all party and whatever. And that's okay. I mean, that's fine. Look, those cons make a ton of money. They seem to be fairly successful. I mean, I'm not going to darken their door anymore because I can't deal with 80,000 people in any way, shape, or form. But good for them. It's just I am much more. I don't know what the word you want to say is amenable. I'm much more amenable to the small. Let's just, I like to walk down the hall and say, I know that guy. I know that guy. Oh yeah, I got to talk to that guy later. I hate to walk down the hall and say, nope, don't know anybody here.
Yep.
And
So here's what I always tell people, right? Like everybody has what their niche is for what they love, right? If you want to go and play, I used to say it was Gary Con, but that was 9 years ago. And Gary Con has become very, very crowded, and it's very hard to you could still get in games, but you're really fighting a very, very thick crowd of people to get into games. Right. And so I make it no secret, and I'm not trying to sound like the endless promotional machine here, but I go to North Texas to play. I go to North Texas to play, and I go to North Texas to just have a good time.
Absolutely.
And hang out at a smaller show. I'm a comic book guy. Mike and I are both comic book people. And I would tell you that if you've ever wanted to go to a comic book show, if you've read about San Diego Comic-Con, and Mike and I for the last 30, 40 years have heard about San Diego Comic-Con.
Mhm.
I used to have a trade account in San Diego that sold Games Workshop products, but had been a vendor since year one at San Diego Comic-Con. They had been one of the first vendors that signed up for the very first San Diego Comic-Con. And the guy was really, really nice. He would talk about what it used to be like. He would talk about, and by the mid 90s, the show had already transformed substantially, and was already headed in the direction where it already is, because it's so easy for people in Hollywood to get to San Diego that what San Diego turned into is no surprise to anybody. But if you want a comic experience like San Diego used to be, my advice to you is to go to Calgary. There is a convention in Calgary called the Calgary Comic Expo. It's in April. You can fly there. You can stay in Calgary. It's not expensive. The Comic Expo has all the same artists, all the same writers, all the big names, but is a tenth the size of San Diego Comic-Con. You will be able to get sketches. You will be able to get commissions. You will be able to meet the people you want to meet and talk to. There's tons of vendors. They're small comic book shops. They're independent comic book shops. They aren't like Mile High Comics or one of the super large vendors or whatever. And it is the closest to what San Diego Comic-Con used to be. When people talk about how it used to be great in the 70s and 80s, this is what Comic Expo in Calgary is like now. If you're not comic, if you are, I'm going to say this and this seems like a contradiction, but if you're into media, if you're into science fiction, if you're into what I would say is cosplay and so on and so forth, I don't recommend San Diego Comic-Con. I think it's too expensive. I think it's too hard to get to, and blah, blah, blah. I do, however, recommend Dragon Con. If you haven't been to Dragon Con, you should go at least once, because the costume contest is spectacular. You can stay outside of Atlanta in all the sort of burbs and get a room and so on and so forth. But you ought to go at least once, because it is a spectacle. And if you go and you love it, I go to Gen Con every year. I go to Gen Con to work. I try to get into a couple of games, which is always an absolute disaster. Just trying to get into the games. But I go to Gen Con because it's big. And I like a lot of what's there, and it is a showcase. And Dragon Con could be that for you if you're into media and so on and so forth. So that's my recommendations.
And speaking of cons, Gary just announced we're halfway through our registration. We've got 300 people, so don't delay getting a ticket, folks. You want to be
right.
welcome. Don't delay, please.
That's right.
I think we may sell out by the end of the year, maybe not. We'll see what happens.
Well, I don't have a whole lot else, and I've told my Miss Texas story. So there you go.
Yes,
well, you just you ruined my night, because I'm trying to think what I was doing the summer of 1993, and I'm sure it wasn't half as exciting as any of the. It wasn't. Well, it's probably more exciting than Bill being stuck with the nerds in the space game room. But other than that, it wasn't exciting as you guys in the bar, definitely.
I really and truly, that was one of the most legendary nights of my entire time. I cannot tell you how much fun we had, and the best part is that it was the perfect balance. Nobody was out of hand. Nobody was silly. The girls were watching what they were drinking, and then, of course, it was all like Miller Lite and Bud Light, and they weren't knocking them back hard. And
they got to watch
every time people would try to come into the group, like it was, we're good. We didn't have velvet ropes, but
can I see your card, sir? I don't have a card. Then please back up behind the cord.
I'm so sorry, sir. This is private.
Invitation only, nerds only.
Silly good fun. Silly good.
Great. So. Well, thanks everybody, and thanks to Keelan and Ian for showing up. We had a great time with you guys, and please back their Kickstarters, Eric.
Yes,
the links are in the chat.
The links are in the chat, and I'll attach them after the show to the show notes.
Woot!
Woot woot.
And Gary, thanks for the update. I knew Gary was lurking around somewhere.
That's right. Gary's always got
waiting-
some numbers, baby.
He was waiting to spring those numbers on Jim because Jim begs for them. I mean, before the show, all it is Jim going, "Where are Gary and the numbers? I haven't heard them all week." And we're like,
Where's the number, man? He's
Calm
late
down,
with the
Jim.
numbers.
Gary will show up with numbers later, and he's just like shaking like a junkie, and we're just like, "Calm down, Jim." And so thank you, Gary. We appreciate that. That's awesome. Thanks to everybody. Really, I had a great, I still have a British visitor upstairs that won't go home to the UK. He's still up there. We're having a great time. And I just had, this has been a great month, starting with the convention and just afterwards, just, seeing all my buds and hanging out with Al and, doing the show with you guys. I'm just absolutely great, June. I thank you guys for, a few great shows this month. Even the show at the con that sucked balls was still fun. I'm sorry. See, Gary has your number. Jim loves numbers. He does.
He loves his numbers. He loves them.
He does. Absolutely.
Oh,
But thanks, guy. I really appreciate you, Gary, and I appreciate Eric and Jim. You've made this month really, really fun for me. I've had a great time.
Well, I believe Roger is going to be from Central New York Con is going to be the guest tomorrow night on the Thursday Live, hosted by Don. And I believe Don and Mark Hunt are going to be on Friday night with Glenn and I. Yes, we're getting back to the live streams. I know they were a little late last week. They were at conventions. And other than that, we're looking good. Jim, Mike, after the end of the show, we got to discuss future guest.
We have some subjects to discuss.
Our future guest pinged me during the live. So
okay, I got one too that I forgot about. That I guess we need to talk about that person too. So perfect.
So good things in our future, folks.
Yeah.
Be safe, be well, God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. I will catch you all tomorrow.
All right, later.